This is Flare Engine, welcome. In this tutorial we're going to continue working with some basic AI. We will go over some of the AI in Demo 2. We will look into the chain chomp. Okay, let's begin. I have a new setup. We have the ground and the player. You'll create the chain chomp from scratch. Create a game object and place it in the scene. Add sprite engine. You can rename it and change its scale to these values if you wish. It has 2 sprites. The idle sprite only has 1 frame. We enable some basic signals for movements, and we create and enable an attack signal. And this is what the animation state looks like. We now add the AI finite state machine. We create 2 targets, one for the player and the other for patrol points. We name them. We create the patrol points and modify their positions in the scene to their desired location. We create a territory and place it over the patrol points. This will be used to alert the chain chomp to the player's presence. Before we forget, let's add a box collider 2D and change the size and offset. We add our first state and call it patrol. We add 2 nodes, jump and follow target. The jump node will make the AI jump continuously. We set a height of 1.5. We set the follow target to follow the patrol points in the x-axis. And we set a stop distance of 1.5, which means the AI will follow the next target point once it's within 1.5 units of the current one. We enable has gravity, and this will allow the AI to retain its x direction while it is jumping. We go into play mode and see this in action. Now we add the attack state. We enable the default animation signal to attack. We add the jump to node to jump towards the player. We set scale distance x to 1.5. This basically means the AI will try to jump past the target. Back in the patrol state, we add a find target. Once the player is inside the territory, we jump to the attack state. We add another state called check for player. Once the AI finishes jumping to the target, we jump into the state to check if the player is still inside the territory. If it is, we go back into the attack state. If it's not, we return to the patrol state. We accomplish this with another find target node. Okay, great. It looks like it worked. Now we give the player the ability to attack an enemy. To keep things simple, we'll simply use the jump on enemy ability. We set the layer to enemy and modify the other fields. We make sure the chain chomp's layer is set to enemy, and add a health component. We create the pushback state. This state will be called by the health component when it receives damage, and it will make the AI react to getting hurt. We add this node and set the following settings. We include the hurt material and set the sprite renderer reference. We make sure to set the name of the state, in this case, pushback. Once this node completes, we jump into the patrol state. We go back into the health component. We set the reference to the AI's game object on onValueChanged. We look for pushback and set activate pushback. We go into play mode. Okay, there is one issue with this. Since pushback is swapping materials to show the damage effect, this apparently causes a lag spike when the AI receives damage. But this only happens if the AI's game object is selected. Simply click another game object to prevent this. Okay, everything works better now. Next, we create the chain. We add an empty game object. This is needed to serve as the end anchor point of the chain, and we position it in the scene. Now, we finally create an always state. These states aren't actually part of the state machine. Their purpose is to run functionality that is applicable to every state in the state machine. It's also worth noting that you cannot jump to another state from an always state. The chain is a perfect example of a node that can work in the always state. We add the chain node and set the following settings. One end of the chain will be controlled by the AI's position and the other by the anchor. The offset will simply modify the chain's position relative to the AI's position. We set the reference to the anchor. We set the black chain sprite, set its size, and click the Create button to create the chain. Anytime you make modifications to this, you must repress the Create button. Now we enable the chain chomp to deal damage to the player. We double check to make sure the player's box collider trigger is enabled. We go into play mode to see the changes. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.